So, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unpacking Possibility. I'm your host, Traci Stein, as always. So happy to be here with you. I can't tell you how excited I am about today's guest, and in a few moments, you'll know exactly why. But I'll tell you a little bit about him, and then I'll let him tell you more about his incredible journey and what he has to share with us. So, my guest today is Dr. Joe Gallenberger. Dr. Gallenberger is a clinical psychologist, but even beyond that, he is an expert on manifestation, healing, and mind over matter, otherwise known as psychokinesis or telekinesis. And he'll tell you more about what that is. But Joe's workshops, his books, his audio programs, they all provide guidance and specific steps for helping us to expand our energy, helping us to focus our intention and to live magically. So he'll talk about more of what that means. But Joe's the author of Inner Vegas, Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health, Liquid Luck, The Good Fortune Handbook, and Heaven is for Healing, A Soul's Journey After Suicide, and a number of audio programs. One of them is actually the audio program that all these years later I still recommend more than any, probably to patients, to friends, and I use myself regularly. Um, you will find more about Joe's home study course and live workshops and everything else on syncreation.com, and I'll put that in the show notes at the end. But I want to turn it over to you, Joe, and hear more from you. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi Tracy, how are you?
After some technical problems, we're good to go, right?
Yeah, it took a glitch or two, but perseverance helps, huh?
And actually, if you, if there's anyone who can persevere and get through technical or other glitches, really it is you. And you have such a fascinating um, track record of doing just that, recentering, getting rid of the dragons that you refer to in one of your books that get in the way of manifesting. So, where should we begin along those lines?
Um, I guess a couple of things, if folks are not familiar with me, probably be good to know besides the clinical psychology end of things. I've been a trainer at Monroe Institute for about 35 years now, and it's famous for out of body and exploring consciousness without the need for any dogma, which really attracted me over time. So Monroe has been my second family, if you will, over all those years. And I was really started with kind of the ET phone home, get me off this planet, out of body feeling that Monroe talks about. And after a bit, knowing I could come and go from the spiritual back to the physical, it was as if, Tracy, to me, if the earth was the most beautiful mansion, but then somebody locks you in, it becomes a prison. And once you know how to do out of body, then you have the key. You can come and go. It turns back into a beautiful mansion. And I think this is an amazing planet, but it helps to be able to transcend the local drama, at least every once in a while meditatively, to take a break sometimes because it's pretty intense down here. Uh,
Oh,
so
one.
my last 20 plus years have been attempting to be the big X, grounded to the earth, grounded to the heavens, both meeting in the heart and learning how we could use spiritual energies down here in the physical for things like energy healing. You mentioned psychokinesis. Uh, you mentioned it as affecting matter or mind over matter. To me, the mind is kind of the steering wheel. It sets of a car, it sets direction, but the car doesn't go anywhere without gas. And our best gas, I think, is unconditional love. So all of my things have a lot about opening the heart to have a beautiful heart flow of highest love energy. And within that, in psychokinesis, we've grown seeds in our hand in 2 minutes, inch and a half root growth, lit light bulbs, measured 400 volts off our hands, bending metal, worked a lot in laboratories with random number generators and things at Princeton University, University of Virginia, labs, that kind of thing. And so The fun thing about that is there's random number generators and slot machines. So I did 99 Vegas adventure workshops, bringing people out to teach them because the casino is a great place for super quick feedback. In regular life, if we have a positive attitude, say we're looking for the ideal job, it could still take a year to get it. Um, and we could get discouraged, or if we're thinking negatively, for weeks we might think that way before we got a cold or some feedback that this is not a great path to be on in terms of how we're thinking and feeling. But in Vegas, within seconds, if you're one with the universe, grounded to Mother Earth, and feeling gratitude and abundance and love, you usually get rewarded with money at the dice table or a slot machine. If you go into greed, fear, ego, the money's withdrawn. So much like teaching a dog to sit, in a couple of days in a workshop like that, you can train someone to a more enlightened way of living because the feedback's so quick. So that's why that comes in handy for me. Um, and when I first experienced PK was in a laboratory, and I just loved the feeling and really enjoyed seeing the non-physical have the effect on the physical. If it was changing the height of a water fountain, if it was picking a computer to pick different pixels off of one picture, like kitty cat versus pyramid with your mind. I love that kind of feedback. So it's been about a 30-year journey, and at this point, um, and I think a real positive one. And I think right now in the world we could use it. One of my favorite expressions is love is priceless, fear is expensive, choose wisely. Because right now there's a lot of fear in the culture, and fear tends to produce what we don't want. So a great way out of ego and out of fear is into the heart. And that's been my main focus lately, not just as an individual that we can manifest better, but our communities can, etc. And maybe even our country and our world. But it's funny, out in Vegas, for example, we might all agree to roll a double on the dice table. And it's pretty good to get agreement on that. But say we have 20 people there and we are hitting doubles well above chance, which we do regularly. Then if you take a lunch break and say, we're going to order pizza for 20 people, you could take you an hour to figure out how to order a pizza because some will be vegetarian, some will be vegan, some will be meat lovers, some love anchovies, some not so much. And so that's where the excitement is to me now. How do you have differences in people, but you get coherence of intention on something like world peace, or coherence of intention on how to provide health care, whatever it might be? That's when it really gets to be a game of chess to figure it out. Elegant to figure all that out.
Oh my goodness. There's so much in what you just said, Joe. And I just want to clarify for people, you're teaching people to change what they focus on, to focus on love and their heart energy, to come to a sense of consensus in a positive way and get all the other stuff out of the side. And so your workshops when you take people to Las Vegas,
Hmm.
it's gambling, like you said, is an immediate feedback thing. If everybody in your group of 10 people or whatever in this workshop are focused on getting two sixes
Hmm.
on a dice roll, you're
Yes.
saying that that collective positive energy and specific focus makes it more likely to happen. And in fact, statistically far beyond what we would expect with chance alone.
Yes.
And you've done it again and again so that it might be an hour or two where your group or one person is consistently winning.
Yeah, at this point, just to be clear, when COVID hit, we were ready to do our 100th workshop. And since then, things have changed a little bit in terms of the stress of travel, the expense of hotels and whatever. So we have moved to doing the Vegas one in virtual format. So we call it Inner Vegas Virtual Workshop now. We've had three, And the format is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the following Sunday, giving people that whole week in between to play within their business, with their family, going to casino if they'd like. And right now, I'm in the middle of that week where we meet again Sunday on the 3rd. But to give an example there, these we've had people in the first three from Vietnam, Australia, Saudi Arabia, all through Europe, all through South America, as well as the US. And so here's a group of 20 around the world. And now we say, okay, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to roll 10 times each, and we're going to aim for a double. That comes up statistically 1 in 6 rolls. So it's easy to go, oh, 22 people times 10 is 220. Divide by 6, you get how many doubles you should roll by chance. In that case, it's about 32. In this last workshop, we got 61 doubles. Um, we
Amazing.
we go with trying to have no sevens, and 7 comes up once in every 6 rolls by chance. The last workshop we did in person in Vegas, a woman rolled 48 numbers in a row with no 7.
Wow.
As we said, because 7's kind of the symbol of fear in that game, because it can end the game. So we just lovingly put the 7 on a tour of the outer planets, if you will, in our imagery. You have to figure out how to handle fear. You just can't not think about it. And the more important a manifestation is, the more chance there may be fear. Like if a doctor's saying we're going to do a test next week and the result could determine your life, or something like that. If you can learn how to manage fear over that weekend, you can shift what's been going on in the body potentially. And when you go in for the root canal or whatever it is, they go, what are you here for? We don't see that place we were going to biopsy. We don't see the need for a root canal, whatever it might be. The other kind of fun thing about this is in meditations, people are used to very high states of awareness and ecstasy and near-death experience kind of experiences. But this, walking and talking around, you can begin to see energy around patterns around people, see auras, begin to see through physical matter, begin to hear angelic choirs as you're sitting there with somebody smoking cigarettes and wild music going on in a casino, and even feel a sense of ascension where you can come and go from physical with no need of death. So you can get in very high states and yet be on a subway or at the mall or in a casino rather than have to be in some kind of retreat or ashram, eyes closed, total silence to get in touch with the divine, if you will. I think that robustness of skill will really come in handy for our kids and grandkids and us forming a good life here on Earth. And I'd love to, I'm 75, I'd love to hang around and see most of the turnaround. It's like turning around a big cruise ship like the Queen Mary, I guess, societally. But there's signs it's turning. The veils are thinner, more people are interested in this stuff, and it's very practical. When I bend metal or I affect slot machines, I can go to somebody who's a scientist and say, okay, I'm going to get a royal flush and hearts on the slot machine. It's 160,000 to 1 by chance. I get it in the first pull, I get their attention. And so usually science and spirit don't talk to each other too much. But if you start a dialogue, both are needed. Science has done amazing things for us, but we're also a little out of balance ecologically, technologically, with more power than wisdom right now, if you will. And the dialogue needs to begin. So I'm kind of part of that. So that's a lot more fun than retiring and playing golf, I think.
I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
There's so much there, and I'm trying to think of which of the many beautiful threads to reach for here. But I want to just make it clear to people who are listening, some of whom will be very much more well versed with what you're talking about. For some people, this might be much newer. But what you're saying, in essence, correct me if I don't phrase it exactly right, but is that you are teaching people what you have learned about how to shift your inner world, your inner space, your consciousness, your awareness, your perspective, your belief in what's possible, to raise your vibration, to use a term, and to decrease a lot of the things that you talk about in Inner Vegas, actually, about getting in the way, fear, over responsibility for other people, our negative beliefs about what's possible for us or what we deserve, and so many other things. And when you stay in that more positive space, doesn't really quite cover it, but we change not only who we are inside, but we change what we attract. We change what happens materially in the outer world. I know you talk in the book. This is going to sound like a lot for some people, but by making those inner shifts, illuminating light bulbs with your own energy,
Mhm.
bending spoons or twirling them with minimal effort and in a way that I know you've had scientists look at some of the spoons and forks that you've bent, and they've said there is absolutely no way for this metal to bend in this way. I mean, it's clear that there was no force used and no heat used and so forth. You mentioned accelerating plant growth in your hands in a brief period of time. And of course, influencing machines like slot machines or the roll of dice and so forth. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's almost more like the universe proving to us that there's so much more that's possible and that we can influence things for better or for not so good. I know I said a lot there.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you're on track there. When you see a movie like The Secret about manifestation and some of the law of attraction things, uh, yes, visualizing something is a powerful thing to do, or having an affirmation statement that says I am, or something like that. But really, the places that don't tend to be addressed from my point of view would be one we could call a shadow. Most people have limiting beliefs and negative emotional loops or feelings about deservingness or even suspicion about power. This could be of the devil in certain cultures. And so we're looking at a combination of clearing beliefs and then adding the right energy. And then there's a dance between very strong, clear intention and letting go, paradoxically. For me, when you let go or surrender, all you're doing is giving up the illusion of separateness, even by modern physics terms, okay? But it can, when you really, really want something, it can be hard to let go. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
so these things are natural, this psychokinesis, um, but that doesn't mean they're easy. Sleep is natural. If I said, "Oh, I'm getting tired, I'm going to go to sleep," oh, I love my bed. I think I'll sleep there. It's nice and cozy and comfortable. I lay down, and then I'm going to forget about going to sleep. I'm going to think of something else. In 10 minutes, I might be asleep. So it's a natural function. But if I said, okay, Tracy, you're a good sleeper, yeah, we'll put you on TV tonight and we'll give you an hour to go to sleep. And if you do, there'll be about 10 million people watching, but, don't worry about that. And in an hour, if you fall asleep, we'll give you $1 million. Most people wouldn't be able to do it. Now they would effort. How many minutes has it been? Oh, 7 minutes, and I'm not asleep yet. And they would get in their own way. So in life, we have a lot where we have intention letting go. We intend to eat, we put food in our mouth, we don't think about chewing it. When we're giving a lecture, we don't think about every word that comes out of our mouth. When we're dancing or skating or in sports, often we have intention and then we let go. But this has not been transferred to our manifestation skills very well, and our self-healing skills. In Vegas, we would wake up sometimes, a person woke up the second day of the workshop pain-free from post-polio syndrome for the first time in 20 years. Other people would be in tears because they no longer had fibromyalgia pain. We've had folks, get completely clear CAT scans and MRIs. Illness is a strange thing, though. It's got a spiritual component, and so sometimes the illness has a purpose that if we applied energy from an ego basis, it's not going to be received, and the result isn't exactly what we expected by ego. My mom, one of the things she didn't want in life at all would be to have Alzheimer's, lose her mind. She could do the New York Times crossword puzzle in ink, you know. Well, turns out she ended up having dementia. She was in a rest home. After she died, I met with her on the other side and said, Mom, what was up with the Alzheimer's? That's pretty grisly, 100,000 a year in a rest home and, just what you didn't want. And she said, well, your dad had a lot more to do here. We had been married 64 years. If I died suddenly, it would have been a shock. And so by going slow, I gave him time to learn how to cook and clean and meet new friends and all kinds of things. And I couldn't figure a way to get rid of all my sticky religious guilt. So I decided to forget everything was going to be the way. And so from her
Wow.
point of view, Alzheimer's was an elegant plan, even though from our point of view here, and even her here in physical body, in the identity with ego, would have said, yuck, you know, that's not a plan, that's disaster. So when somebody does even have a sore knee, yes, it should go away maybe. Or maybe if I don't take it away, the next person they meet is their soulmate on their journey to the doctor or some other care. So there's this interesting abilities we have that are influencing, but there's bigger plans than what we know. And you begin to be able to understand to ask first, is it appropriate for me to win in the casino tonight? Is it appropriate for my knee not to hurt? Or is there a message there for me? And as you interact with other people as well. And so when that wisdom comes in, then it does become a lot better to live here, a lot funner, a lot more delightful. There's still negativity in the sense of things happening that we would rather not happen, but your attitude is so different that they become soulful rather than just a stimulus to become victim or something. I know I talk a lot. I apologize.
No, it's
But
perfect because,
okay,
there's so many things I want to ask you, and yet I feel like you're taking this on the journey that we're supposed to go on, in all
okay,
honesty.
okay. But yeah, so um, it's nice now that these things don't have to be on faith so much. From my point of view, clinical psychologists learn a lot about research and quality of research. I think it's fair to say now, not everybody would agree, that things like psychokinesis, remote viewing, which is ability to see things without regard to time or distance, telepathy, which is reading others' thoughts, precognition, which is knowing things ahead of time, all of those in the science terminology would be, if you look at the meta-analysis of studies been done, would be 6 sigma events or 7 sigma events. That means that these things would not occur even once in a billion by chance or a trillion by chance. And they'll put out a new medication if it's 100 to 1 by chance as the probability that this is not just random, but there's actually a benefit to that medication. So this is huge. There's a good book by Chris Carter called Science and Psychic Phenomena, Fall of the House of Skeptics. And his point is, well, if this is true, why don't we all do it now? And he points to an amazing coalition of folks who don't want this to be true. Folks that are fundamentalists who might think it's of the devil, as I mentioned, materialistic scientists who say there's nothing but chemicals in the body. And they have the ear of government and the press pretty well. So right now, this is not widely disseminated. But when you look at the data, it's quite clear now. And it's gotten quite sophisticated that you can't just say, oh, it was placebo effect. So they have a study, for example, where they take bacteria in a vial or container, and they know there's say 100 million bacteria in there, and if you put a particular antibiotic in, 90% of them will be dead in 10 minutes. And then you can have healers, double blind, four-way, they don't know which they're working with, put their energy around the vial for protection. And in those vials, two-thirds of the bacteria are still alive in a half hour. And there's no placebo effect, there's no way to cheat.
Oh,
There's, you
yeah.
know, so things have gotten pretty sophisticated in the experimental area. It's just not been translated to the general public yet, in my opinion, which makes it easier for me to go to casinos and do what I do. And the casinos, of course, notice they keep a running statistical average and things, but they will say, well, Joe, your group is at the dice table. You might take us for 40 grand, but then the rumor is the table is hot for the next 2 days. And so after you leave after an hour, those tables more than make up for the action we gave you. Because we're not trying to kill them. We're not trying to make millions of dollars or whatever. We're using it as a feedback device. But they indeed do notice. Um, and yet good places will let you continue to play. So this workshop I mentioned we're in the middle of, there's several people that are out in Vegas or other places in the country, and we have a WhatsApp group continuous during the week that they're meeting, and I'm just getting message after message today. Put 20 bucks in the slot machine, won 400. I did it 3 times. I went and I won for 3 hours at the dice table, whatever it is. And then also in life, even rough things. One woman in the last workshop from Saudi Arabia got a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer. And she was quite concerned not only with the cancer, but how she could get treatment because she had no health insurance and there was only one good hospital in the country that she wanted to go to. She reported, the group center energy and love, that all the scans went smoothly. Everybody was carrying all the doctor appointments lined up beautifully in 5, 6 days. And she got accepted at that hospital as a patient for free. All care is going to be covered.
Oh, wow.
Even dancing with grim reality, if you will, if you can apply and not go into fear and stay in the heart, those rivers get easier to navigate than the way we normally would go, yikes, and slam right into the riverbank and be buffeted by all the fear around us.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I know you've spoken before too, and I might get the wording slightly wrong, but I have my own version of thinking about this. I always say the universe, I don't think it's like a magic gumball machine. You put your quarter in and it's always going to give you a blue gumball. Sometimes it does,
Hmm.
but that we have to be open to other ways that something good might present itself.
Sure.
You mentioned a few minutes ago about that it's more intention rather than control. I think when you're talking about, because we have such an urge to control things. And
Hmm.
like an example of the woman with stage 4 cancer, I could imagine why somebody could go into a casino or bet on a lotto ticket or whatever and say, I have to win, $400,000 so I can pay for my cancer treatment. And
Hmm.
if I don't win, I'm going to die. I mean, people can feel so much internal pressure, or even just, I have to make a mortgage payment,
Yes.
or I owe somebody. And so, how am I going to, everything's riding on this one thing, and how that completely closes down on our natural ability to attract
Yes.
from a place of ease and abundance and positive expectancy.
Yeah. So we use a technology-based brainwave stimulating meditation with headphones. Usually people within 10, 15 minutes can relax and quiet ego and move into a place of higher energy, greater clarity, even when things are rough around them. So it works for, I don't know, 95% of people at least. Those not to do a commercial so much, but for under 20 bucks, you can try a download off my website and see if that works with you for you. So it's not a real expensive kind of thing to try. And it doesn't require years of discipline or a belief system. It just tends to work. Within that, then you have the capacity to begin to reflect of all the abundance that surrounds you now. Even if you had a cancer diagnosis, you might have an abundance of the beauty of nature, friends, your dogs and cats in your home, your pets still unconditionally loving you, and what have you. And then you look at a clear scan as the cherry on top of the sundae, rather than your whole existence depends on that scan. And so there's a lot of generating. It has to be genuine. You can't do a stiff upper lip and whistle past the graveyard kind of a thing of just, when people say smile and the world smiles with you to some extent. But if the smile's not genuine on your part, probably not. So how do you move to a genuine state of openness and love when things are flowing in a way that looks threatening is one of the areas we address. But it's possible to do now. And we don't have to be perfect. So there's the energy flow is a big one, and then belief. And so we've had, say, a tumor go away instantly in one person next to him, it doesn't go away. And when that person asks what's up to their guidance, they say, well, you are a urological cancer surgeon. You didn't believe it could go away instantly. So then they have to dissolve the belief. Nothing good comes easy, no pain, no gain, all of that kind of stuff to create a pathway for the energy. One guy I know, he was having a little trouble getting work, and he didn't look like he even was all enthusiastic about it anyway. So he said, what would you really like? He said, I think I'd like a job about 2 months a year out in beautiful weather. And so we took him to what we call Focus 12, a state of expanded awareness in this meditation, and said, put out what you'd like. Well, he got a call from somebody in high school he barely knew, took him out to lunch twice and sold him his business, which was an advertising boat on the east shore of the United States. Pretty girl drives the boat so that people watch the boat going up and down. Coca-Cola has one side for ads, maybe local restaurant the other. At the end of the year, he had 3 boats on a Lexus, season's 2 months long. So he spent about 4 days in the winter saying, do you want the same deal as last year? And now it's 2 months a year he's working. But for most people, as soon as you said 2 months a year job, they laugh.
Well, we think that's not possible,
Yeah, they
right?
say hard, unpleasant work for 60 hours a week equals job. And that's what they're going to create. Maybe at a little higher salary or something, but they're within a belief system confines. And it's can be quite anxiety provoking to go against the beliefs of your tribe, because tribes are designed for you to survive. And so you've been taught nothing good comes easy, no gain, pain, no gain. Our whole society based on survival of the fittest. Well, the latest in biology, because of genetic sharing among organisms, from my point of view, says the prime directive of nature is for the good of all. A society built on for the good of all is very different than one built on survival of the fittest. But
Yes.
if you try to do that and your tribe thinks survival's based on a whole different paradigm, you're lucky if they just frown at you. They may ostracize you, ridicule you, or worse.
Yeah.
Uh,
We're seeing that now. I mean,
yeah,
just to acknowledge, the kind of the elephant in the room is we are not in a time that is marked by harmony.
yes, yes. There's very strong feelings about this is the way to go to for the world to go well and for my kids to be safe and my grandkids. And some of the views are diametrically opposed. And the wealth of information, the effort it took to write a book in the old days, when, at 75 years old, say in the 1950s, if I wanted to research something, I'd usually have to go to a library, and most of the things in there tended to be more true because it took a lot of effort to put them in. And once it's said like that, people could look at it and analyze it more quickly. Now we got a zillion times more information, but unless we're going to use our own intuitive skills, which we can develop, then sorting out truth from fiction can be challenging.
100%.
Yeah.
And just to go back to something you said a moment ago that I think most or many, many people could get is that it is very hard to go against, even if we go to a different state. But the teachings and the I don't want to say indoctrination, but it, of course it is of our tribe in the sense that, you mentioned things like I'm going to say money, you didn't say it exactly like this, but money doesn't grow on trees, or if it was fun, they'd call it play, not work, or, all the things that we learn. And it's so hard to unlearn. I'm going to tell you a quick anecdote and tie it to one of your earlier albums, meditation albums, because I think that one is still with Hemi-Sync, the manifesting one,
Yes.
manifesting with Hemi-Sync, but it is you. And I have some of your others as well. They're all great.
Mhm.
I know that that meditation works and it works for me. And I don't even know how to tell you why, because I go so deep in the middle that I
Mhm.
don't consciously hear anything. But in that incredibly deep space, it's like there's magic. It's transformative. And I'm going to tell you, I come from a long line of people who are exquisitely skilled at telling you the 500 reasons why something will not work out.
Okay. Uh,
We're very anxious and they control and I get it. And it's not that I don't have any of that. But one thing was a million years ago, because I do guided imagery as well. And I remember in my audio programs were with Health Journeys at the time. And I remember having just like a passing thought. And it was like a crazy thought, like, oh, if Oprah, liked my imagery, then it would get out to more people and be helpful. I
mhm.
said it like an aside right before I laid down in the middle of the day to listen to your manifesting album
Okay.
and didn't give it another thought.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't something I had like a tight grip on. Anyway, within 2 weeks, I got an email out of the blue from an Oprah magazine editor wanting to come to me for hypnosis and then write about it for O Magazine, and it was in O Magazine. And then similarly, I thought, oh, I want to write a book, but I don't know how I'd even go about the process. It would be so hard. It would be great if somebody just came to me. And again, within like 2 weeks, lay down to do your meditation. Within 2 weeks, two different editors reached out, and I wound up, writing a book with one of them.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. But thank you really because it did something to help me get out of my own way and allow for a possibility in a way that my logical mind and the way and my brain, the way I have been raised, and not blaming anybody, but I'm just saying
Mhm.
normally would get in the way. And I like that in your work you talk about again these things that get in the way of manifesting what we think we want, because you also talk about how we can become masterful. I'm saying masterful at manifesting what we do not want
Mhm.
because we've created such real and emotion infused and belief infused kind of ideas about, you know, things are
Yeah,
going to be terrible.
I think it's a free choice universe. We're free. And so when things happen, I'm going to make something up. This didn't really happen to me, but say I'm a 15-year-old boy and I see you in class and I like you and I ask my friends, you think she likes me? And that gets telegraphed to your friends who tell you. And I finally go up and say, would you like to go out to the movies with me this Saturday? And you stiffen and redden and walk away. I'm going to think you didn't like me. What really happened is you went to your dad and said, there's a boy in class and I kind of like him. I think he's going to ask me out. Could I go to the movies with him? And dad said, no, not until you're 16. And so what I'm seeing is your reaction to that. Now I have a little fear of rejection. The next person coming along, I might say, well, you wouldn't want to go out with me, would you? And my timing's off, got sweat under the arms. And she says, get lost. Now I have fact that People who like me don't like me. No, people I like don't like me. And I could live that over and over. It's not karma, and the universe isn't trying to punish me, but in a free choice universe, I'm free to think. Hopefully, some blessing or grace will come along, which usually does, and it can give us an opportunity for some change. A teacher may tell us that we have talent that our family didn't see, or whatever it might be. But this bucking the trend of the family can be difficult. So some of my exercises now, I guess the manifesting with Hemi-Sync is still available, but the way I go approach things now often is like in my liquid luck meditation. I just ask the person after the brainwave patterns have put them in a deep meditative state to imagine being a strong wizard, and they're in their lab and they're forming this magic formula and they're adding happiness and gratitude and compassion and feelings of good fortune, those kind of high energies. And then whenever they want to have a good day, take a drink, and synchronicity, serendipity, everything will be flowing your way. And that tends to work really well because for a while we can even just pretend to let go of our tribals. Let's call it garbage, though there's wisdom in that stuff too. You know, when you say nothing good comes easy, if you want to be a concert pianist, most people are going to practice a couple hours a day. But there are exceptions. There are 3-year-olds who come in and play Bach and Beethoven beautifully, and never took a lesson. Okay, but so you, in kindness, stay connected, but you try to figure out what is inelegant, what is confining about the belief systems I was taught, and where could I just feel safe enough to take 1 or 2 steps away from them and see if things flow differently. And nowadays, you know, I met one guy, asked how his son was doing, and he said, pretty good. He's shy, he's got some acne and that kind of thing, but he's got a YouTube channel and he just talks about team issues. And I said, well, how's he doing? He said, pretty good. He says he makes about 150,000 a month. And when I was growing up, there wasn't that kind of possibility, you know, that over the weekend you could have an idea and by Monday be a millionaire. But there's a tremendous potential change right now. I think that's what's generating some of the fear, that the old ways are not holding us and confining us well enough for everybody to feel safe. And so some people with those crumbling feel very, very threatened and want to go backwards because it feels too scary out here right now. And so I think neither side is really talking about how their hearts are afraid, how their hearts are afraid for their children's welfare and for their grandkids. And if there was more talk about how vulnerable everybody's feeling, then maybe some compassion could be generated, and then going on from there. So we'll see. But the Chinese are right, maybe live in interesting times is sort of where we find ourselves.
No, 100%. Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think what happens is people have their own way. You know, I mean, you're a clinical psychologist. I mean, but I think anybody can really wrap their minds around this. It's like when we feel afraid, we all have our different ways of reacting. For some of us, it's withdrawal. For some of it's trying to control everybody. For some of it, people, it's aggression, and all of these things get in the way of us all moving forward in a healthy way.
Mhm.
Statement. Um, and bringing more good things into being, including in the collective.
Mhm.
I'm going to read a quote from your book, um,
Okay.
just because it stood out for me. By the way, I underlined a lot of your book. I have little post-its. My husband read your book. He's so excited that I'm speaking with you. He was meditating the other night. I think he wound up falling asleep while meditating, and I found him holding his light bulb, trying to
Ah,
make it light.
okay.
So it is an absolute goal, and don't be surprised if you see him at one of your workshops. And I'm not
Excellent.
kidding.
I would look forward to that.
But you said God needs our God needs our help to manifest in us, given we have free choice. The rest of nature just manifests God's presence automatically. And I thought that was it was just an interesting take on it, right? We have to kind of choose what it is we want to receive and what it is we want to put out there. But also it seems like you're saying we need to kind of get out of our own way a bit too.
It can be. We can, our past experience to me acts like a film that we put our light through and project it like a projector onto a screen, if you will. Um, and we have this interesting thing. We are like light. You know, a lot of people say we are light. Light is particle and wave. And so you could look at us as individual as particle and our unity as wave. And as we dance between the two, that's where we get the ability to really be more powerful manifestors. The choice, some is to focus on positive. My wife has a goddess trip once a year, and with her good women friends, and they were at the beach in Outer Banks of North Carolina, and there's pretty high riptides there occasionally, and they saw some man drowning in the surf, and his
Mm.
wife and two children were on the beach in distress, and they all ran back and forth around the beach and got 20, 30 people together with dog leashes and holding hands and went out and rescued this guy.
Oh, wow.
The two people deepest in the water didn't even know how to swim, but they got him in, and that never made the newspaper. And there's a zillion episodes of kindness and altruism every day. We had Hurricane Helene in the area. I live in the mountains of North Carolina last year about this time. And along the road was um, Trump and Harris signs all the way up and down the road. And everybody got together. One person had a horse. They could use the horse to go because all the roads were blocked to check on a 90-year-old person on top of the mountain. Somebody has a front end loader, somebody a chainsaw, somebody a pickup, somebody had water, somebody had food. And everybody just gelled to take care of each other while we had no power for weeks. And that's humans at our real nature when it becomes personal and you know the person even at that moment if they were a stranger 10 seconds before that. So we can do this. But it's going to be helpful if we can tune down the fears and open up what's possible. And I like to think I can be part of that a bit with meditations and workshops and stuff to give people that tangible proof that this works. Because without that, it's pretty hard to just go on faith when so much is riding on it, if you will, in
Absolutely.
one's personal life. And now, you mentioned the book Heaven is for Healing. My brother committed suicide 25 years ago, and he was a handsome, hardworking, totally honest, creative, intelligent guy, but he didn't believe that he could be trusted with power. I think he had another life as a king, maybe, that he was fair but not merciful. And he also had a lot of fear because he had been out of work so long. And if he'd go into, let's say, a job interview, his shoes would be shined to military spec, but he would telegraph some fear and then he wouldn't get hired. And so I really looked at the question, how can bad things happen to good people is the title of a book. How can we have things go so rough when most of us are by nature good individuals who want things to go well for ourselves and those around us? And that's where that fear comes in and the beliefs of, oh, you got to have a college degree or you got to do it this way or you got to do it that way. We need to break free of that right now to move rapidly. And when we do, though, you should see the smiles on people's faces I see when they go, I can't believe this stuff works. You know, I had a headache 10 minutes ago and now it's gone, or whatever it is. It's very empowering, and we can be trusted with that kind of power, I think.
So moving and so important. And thank you for sharing that. Because I had read in your book about your brother. Um,
Mhm.
I'm wondering if this is a good place to ask you more. You alluded to it before when you were talking about your mom, but that this work you're doing, it isn't really just one thing. It's like expanding yourself and your consciousness and what's possible. I'm not articulating it well, but you know what I mean, in multiple different ways. So, whether the training is in the casino or sitting with headphones and listening to meditation or doing mini experiments in some other area of your life to see, what is possible when you shift something. You have talked about how there are all these different things that seem to arise from those practices. So the potential to do healing or self-healing, healing for others, healing, self-healing. You mentioned a man who, coming home from a workshop, had realized he could put his hands on people and take away their pain.
Yes.
Pretty amazing. Another woman came home and was able to win, smaller lottery tickets or
Mhm.
scratch offs and things, but consistently again and again, well beyond what chance would predict. People started having many more synchronicities. Like you said, their intuitive senses became heightened, whether seeing auras around people, or having more premonitions. But you also talked about how your you had more experiences where you connected with the spirits of people you had lost,
Mhm.
right? You had a sense of connection to your mom. I'm assuming you've had a sense of connection to your brother as well.
Yes.
Um, do you do you want to talk about that at all? This feeling of connection to us beyond this physical body?
Sure. Bob Monroe, I give that a lot of credit, Monroe Institute, because of their work with out of body. Why he formed the institute. He was, a successful businessman, but he put energy into this instead, because he felt like if people understand that they're more than their physical body and they survive physical death, the level of fear goes way down. As we've talked, a lot of this is survival programming, and that answer is you do survive. You may change bodies, but you survive. So that's one of the things that goes on as you begin to get clarity in deep meditative states, with folks in your tribe, let's call it, often mothers and fathers, sometimes brothers and sisters, maybe even your own children before they came into this incarnation, and you begin to feel like the connection is clear enough and unexpected enough, it's unlikely you're just making it up, and that you may get some confirmation, and that seems to happen when people need it. Weird ones like, Aunt so and so says, "Look in this drawer nobody's looked in 20 years, and you'll find a ring." And you go and you find that dresser. It's been in the shed in the back for 20, 30 years, and there is the ring. You go, at least I'm telepathic or something. But as things mount, you begin to have some confidence, and it changes. What Bob Monroe took it as the most powerful thing is it changes from belief as a possibility to belief as a probability to a known. And when certain things happen, my mom, after she died, one time I was in bed waking up in the morning, and I just heard a voice as clear as Ma Bell is the old phrase, AT&T, saying, "Your dad's going to die soon, and it's no big deal." Just like that, with love
Holy
in it.
cow.
And then he had his 90th birthday right before 9/11 or right after it, September 20th. And we went and had a 90th birthday party. We were one of the few people that flew that week. And they put us in first class. Nobody else was on the plane. And he had a wonderful birthday. And then a couple months later, he made lunch for my brother. And as my brother went outside to do some work, he dropped dead in the kitchen. And when I talked to my father on the other side, he said, I should have died sooner. It really agrees with me. It was like stepping one room to another, so easy to do. And so you have
Wow.
these kind of conversations. My brother with suicide, the biggest thing he first sent was like a road sign with a gavel on it and a line through it saying no judgment. He was so relieved that he wasn't going to be judged. And he did die, feeling like maybe there's a possibility of at least a drop of mercy from the divine. Maybe even though what I've taught religiously, I'll be okay. And that's what he found. So you begin these relationships with ancestors, let's call it, and it's not unusual in other tribes, through history. Um, in some tribes, they would make it the person who does seances or the shaman. In others, it would be most people have that access. Um, and it really does help because at 75 years old, for me, I know as many people over there that I do here that I love deeply. And we have fun. I sit down at a slot machine. I think of my mom. I can feel her laughter and her love. And then every once in a while, she'll say, pull a lever, Joe, and I'll get a jackpot.
Wow.
So you begin to live between worlds a little bit. If strangely, you can be fully grounded here. If you if you go, this is too rough a place for me, then you're slightly out of body here, and you're not in the present moment. You're worried about the future and the past, and it's not likely you're going to manifest very well or do energy healing very well. The paradox is you got to be really happy about being here in this body at this moment, at this time, and connected to spirit. Doing both those together, that's when you become the miracle worker, in my opinion. And some thoughts like, yeah, that mountain looks pretty solid, and faith can move mountains, but it sure looks big. Well, how about if this is a dream here and my real place of power is in the spiritual world where I'm solid, constant, and real? Then I can change this dream, even moving the mountain, perhaps. So it's an attitude shift, a belief system shift, an energy shift, but well within our power to do so. I think the way we're built, our birthright is to get energy from unlimited quantity and quality directly from source. If we don't do that, we're energy starved and we try to get it from other people. And we could be the good boy, the good girl, the bad girl, the victim, the whatever role. And the energy comes in, but not very good quality or quantity, not enough to create these miracles. If you connect directly from source in unlimited quantity and quality, then you got plenty then you're participating to me like just walking around going, we're surrounded by a miracle, the miracle of the human hand, everything it could do from brain surgery to piano. And so, the other things you might want is just another miracle in a sea of miracles, if that makes sense. Where our standard belief is more like, oh, that's too crazy, that's too wild. Even things that I'm mentioning today, most of our tribe, they would say, oh, that's risky. That means don't even try. You could hurt someone. When I say the casino stuff, most people go, fold their arms and go, I don't gamble. And I go, gee, you incarnated here, you got married, you got kids, you're a high roller. We're just playing with pieces of paper out there compared to the kinds of risk you take, just to live a human life. So different points of view, I guess.
So much in everything you've said, so much to think about. Joe, I want to be mindful of your time.
Sure.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have, or something we should have talked about that we have not, that you would like to share?
I feel good about what we've said, and I do mean strongly many things I threw almost like a throwaway line, such as fear is expensive, love is priceless, choose wisely. They make a big impact in life. My website, syncreation.com, I have a lot of, under previous articles, just a lot of free articles on the kinds of things we talked about in terms of energy healing, manifestation, um, and even some things like manifestation where you play the long game. When I got to my beautiful place here in the country, it's sort of an ancient Cherokee power spot, mountains all around. I wanted to feel the feeling of a wind going right through a pine forest and that sound. So I planted little 2-inch pine trees. Now, 40 years later, the wind goes through the pines. Okay, that's a longer term manifestation. And I'd like us to broaden to think more, what are we trying to manifest for the next 100 years, next 200 years, rather than just next week? It's tempting when next week we don't know exactly how we're going to put gas in the car or, food on the table, to stay very short-term focused. But keep in mind the long game as well, I'd say. So I'm going to leave people with that today. Remember your long game.
That's beautiful. So
Yes.
beautiful. Thank you so much for making time to come on today. I had been wanting to reach out for forever. Again, I've had your voice in my head literally for, I mean, it might be since the late 90s. So, and I have several of your audio programs already and books, and you may very well see my husband or both of us at one of your workshops. So don't be shocked when that happens.
Okay. Well, it's my pleasure to be on. I have, as you probably can tell, a lot of passion for this work,
You do.
and I love getting, even the book Heaven is for Healing. I'll get um, letters from around the world on how that helps somebody with the crushing grief of suicide, and the loops are huge. Was got a call from somebody from India a few months ago, and I gave him my meditation, Ocean Heart, asked him to read the book, Heaven is for Healing. They found tons of benefit from that and talked to the channeler in that book that had talked to my brother Pete as well. And they said to the channeler, we're meeting with the Dalai Lama next week. Anything you would like? And she just said, I don't know. And well, the Dalai Lama, she's in Taos, New Mexico, showed up in her kitchen a week later and held her as she went through the memory of her son's death. Her son had schizophrenia. He thought he was diabetic. He wasn't. He took insulin and he died of an insulin coma in her arms. And it was a really rough death from her point of view. And the Dalai Lama just stood with her and streamed unconditional love as she faced this and began to heal it. And as she reported to me after that, the PTSD went away. She could sleep properly, all kinds of things. So here's this huge arc from her helping me with the book helping them helping her, Dalai Lama coming in, and there's these dances that are worldwide now between people, potentially, and so it's a beautiful place to be right now in this life at this time, I think. Even if it can be rough on the surface, look for the beauty. So thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. And I'll put the link again in the show notes to your website, syncreation.com, where people can find out more about you, your audios, your books, your workshops, and more. But Joe, thank you again.
You're most welcome, Traci.
So, this has been another episode of Unpacking Possibility. If you enjoyed the episode, and I know you did, please remember to like, share, follow, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And as always, until next time, be well.